All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. So, welcome everybody to the fifth First Timers Clinic. So, we only have one more to go after this, and we're about a little over a month away from the race day, which is very hard to believe since we started this back in May. So, very excited that everybody has joined us again. So, today, this clinic is going to be about just kind of tying up a lot of the loose ends that we've talked about through the last four clinics. Hopefully answer some questions, calm some fears as usual. And again, we'll open it up to any other questions you have that have come up during your training. But quickly before we start, so we have one more clinic that is going to be on August 18th, another Wednesday. That one I'm excited about. We're bringing back a panel of first timers. So we've had probably about 2,500 first timers come through the program over the last 5 years. And most of them have continued on in the world of triathlon. And you still see them down at the beach. You'll see them on race day. So we're going to bring back a handful of them who are going to be here to kind of give their experience and any tips, anything that they wish they had known before they did their first triathlon. So very excited about that. That will be our last clinic. Also during that clinic, we'll probably have more information about race day, so we'll go over that as well. And as always, answer any burning questions that have come up. The other date that I wanted to put out to everybody is August 7th. So that's a Saturday. Myself and also a handful of past first timers are going to be down at Ohio Street Beach. And from 8 to 9:30-ish in the morning or until we're done swimming. So it's a good opportunity if you haven't gotten in the lake yet and want to come out with a group, come on down that day. Also, if you just want to meet other first timers, it's going to be a fun day. So August 7th, so not this Saturday, but the next Saturday, from 8 to 9:30 down at Ohio Street Beach. I will make sure to post this on the Facebook page as well, because there's a lot of people down there. We'll have a flag that has the Live Grit logo on it, which is a nonprofit that trains kids to do the triathlon. So look for the Live Grit flag, and that will also be the first timers area. So, yep, so we're excited about that. August 7th, and the last clinic, August 18th. So today we're tying up loose ends. We're answering questions. Little course map of what we're gonna go through. Some very common questions that come up at the last minute, the freakout questions. I'm gonna answer some of those and also talk about how do you get through when your mind starts racing and you start having all these different thoughts. Can I do this? Should I have done this? What am I doing? Just talking about how we get through that. Talking again about gear. How do you make sure you have the gear you need for the day? The swim start. Lots of questions about that, about the swim. 90% of people, the swim is the thing that causes the most anxiety. So we're just going to go through that again and talk about some tips and tricks so that you can be comfortable, because the ultimate goal of all of this is to make sure you have as much fun as possible, because that's what this should be. This should be fun. And then, are my legs still there? So you're approaching race day. What should you be doing? And maybe you feel like you should get some more training in. Should you stuff it all into the last week? So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's hit our first topic. What is freakout mode? So freakout mode in triathlons is the week before a triathlon, when all of a sudden you come up with all of these questions you haven't thought about for the last 3 months of training, but all these things have come up. You're worried about all things. What if it snows in August in Chicago, which I do believe it has actually snowed in August in Chicago, once. But, or all of a sudden, do I need a new bike? The will I finish question. what happens if I miss the race? All these different questions that are going to start popping in your head, getting your anxiety levels up. So the big thing, like anything in life, when you start feeling anxious, is to slow down, take a deep breath, and start to put things in perspective. Um, so things like, what if it snows? Now that's an extreme, but the actual reality question is, what's the weather going to be like? What if it's cold? What if it's hot? Those are things we can't control. But the good thing is that as you start to approach race day, you can start looking at the forecast and start seeing, what's being predicted for race day. And start planning based on that. Now, I think we all know Chicago weather, that it can change, in a day and go from, saying 70 to saying 90. So you never know, but being prepared for anything is part of what's so important about triathlons. I think that's what actually makes triathlons so special, is nothing is ever predictable. Nothing ever goes quite the way you think. But that's what really, builds character. That's what makes it so amazing when you cross that finish line. You thought it was going to be a 70-degree, beautiful sunny day, and turns out to be, 85 and a lot hotter than you thought. How are you going to get through that? You're going to drink more water. You're going to slow down. So there's an answer to everything. But being flexible and just really trying to go into this with the perspective of having fun and just rolling with and laughing at whatever obstacle comes your way. The do I need a new bike question, that comes from that's talking about the expo. The expo is the coolest place. There's so much stuff there, but just remember, the thing we've talked about through all these clinics, if you didn't use it during training, you probably don't need it for race day. So I would not recommend, buying a new bike to ride on race day, or all of a sudden buying some new shoes that you've never run in for race day. Now, definitely buy them, at expo prices and all of the cool vendors that are there to use after race day and for your next race. But just not falling into the trap that all of a sudden the week before there's all these things you didn't have and you need to get, because you don't. What you've been training with is what you're going to use on race day, and probably even less. When we're training from home and we have, an hour to get ready to go on our bike ride, I can tell you I am way more prepared than when I head out on the bike, after just getting out of the water and going. Will I finish? Now, this is a big question that we always get, especially from first timers. And the answer is yes. You are here. You have been here. You have done, you've gotten outside. Maybe it's not as much training as you've wanted, but you will finish. And if there is some reason that you don't end up finishing, it's going to be something that's not in your control right now. And to really not focus on that, really going out, focusing on that finish line, focusing on doing exactly what you've done for the last 3 months out in training, and really not getting into the mindset of like, am I going to finish? Because I've seen a lot of athletes where that really takes away from the fun of the day. And then they cross the finish line and they're like, why did I worry about that so much? So trying to really focus on, the positives, and that positive self-talk, visualizing yourself out of the run, visualizing the finish line versus kind of visualizing anything that might happen that is just out of your control. What do I do if I wake up late on race day? So this question is targeting how do you make sure you get to the race? So I actually pulled off the tentative times for transition and for the race to start this year. So I believe that transition for international racers is open from 4 a.m. to 5:45 a.m. So that's super early. So yes, the majority of us are going to need to set an alarm clock or two or three to make sure we don't oversleep that. But so yeah, so international transitions open from 4 to 5:45 a.m. Transition for a sprint would also be open at that time, but as I'm going to mention, it will reopen if you have no reason to be there at 4 to 5:45 a.m. You can come at the later transition. So transition closes at 5:45. The international start for the race starts at 6 a.m. So again, bright and early. At 6:30 a.m., the sprint transition will reopen. So any sprint athletes can come in at that time from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then the sprint starts at 8:15 a.m. The last swimmer will get in the water about 9:45 a.m. So the international first timers historically have started later, so closer to the 7:45 in time frame is when that wave is gone. Again, I don't have the times for this year, but usually they start with the pros and some special groups, and then kind of work backward, and then and then have different ages based on different waves based on ages, and then first timers will be within there somewhere. For the sprints, again, 8:40 or starts at 8:15. The last swimmers at 9:45. So the first timers will be somewhere in there for their wave start. All of this will come out in an email. Will be at the expo. If you do have to attend a course talk where they're going to explain everything you could ever want to know about logistics and rules of the triathlon. So you will have your time to start, and you will know it. So that will not be a question. So all that to say, just planning ahead, making sure you know how you're going to get to the race day. That's also the thing. How do we avoid this whole freakout mode? Well, we plan very well, and I'm not a planner, so this has always been a difficult part for me. But where are you going to park, or how are you going to get to the race? Is somebody going to drop you off? Are you going to take an Uber or a Lyft? Are you, I think people have taken the CTA, whatever it is. Really knowing how you're going to get there, also knowing how long it takes. So if you're going to park in a parking garage that's on Michigan Avenue, how long does it take to walk all the way over to the lake? And just making sure you have this mapped out. And as I said, I think in the first clinic, this is not a time to cut things close. Really leaving yourself as much time as possible, and even overestimating how much time you might need. Because again, there's always unexpected things. And I think even though it may seem like there's going to be so much adrenaline that morning, that getting up at 2:33, whatever it is actually probably going to feel like a breeze, and you're going to be ready to go. So really making sure you have everything planned out is going to avoid all of these last minute freak out questions. Let's see. The next thing was we had the transition clinic. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you watch the transition clinic. But just going again, how do you get to race day and not open your bag and go, oh no, where's my helmet? First, packing list. We talked about this. Not only, should you practice the transition between now and August 29th, but then write down everything that you need in your bag, so that the day before a couple days before, you can go through and check off that you have everything that you're going to need. And doing this ahead of time is also going to give you the opportunity to practice it a few times and think, is there something you forgot? The nothing new, nothing borrowed. Again, if you didn't use it to train in, you're not going to need it on race day. The nothing new goes to, I mean, it's a really, you know, of trying to avoid, buying new triathlon shorts the day before and wearing them for the first time at race, even wearing new socks on race morning. All this stuff is going to avoid uncomfortable situations. So sticking with the what you know and what you know works. And for that next race, that's where you upgrade. That's where you get something new, and you train in it for that. Got to talk about in the last section about kind of freak out questions. Chicago weather, very unknown. I mean, I thought it was a beautiful day today, and then they're talking about crazy storms tonight. So our rule of thumb is always dress for the cold and eat for the heat. So by that we mean always bring, if there's any chance that it might be chilly. And also let's remember, we're going to be out there bright and early in the morning. In August, we might start getting into that fall time where the mornings can be chillier and the afternoons can heat up. Having a long sleeve shirt, having a sweatshirt, because you can always take it off. Again, you might want to get something that you don't care if you lose, because many things have been, you may just want to discard it before you get in the water. It may just get lost, while you're waiting for the swim. So, dressing for the cold, as cold as you think it might be, make sure you're ready for that. But eating for the heat, that specifically, is hydrating and getting enough nutrients for if it was a really hot day out there. So, for example, when it's hotter, you need more fluids. When it's hotter, you need to make sure you're replacing that salt in your body. So really just thinking about what would I need if it was super hot out, and making sure you have the food and the water and the sport drink, whatever it is, that would get you through that day. It's great if you brought 2 water bottles for transition and you don't go through them both. That's great. That's way better than going through multiple, than getting on the bike and running out of water. So dress for the cold, but eat for the heat. And pack twice, so all these things we talked about, having your nutrition, having your gear, having your packing list. Pack it once, take it all back out, pack it again, just to make sure you didn't miss anything. Again, the more you plan, the more comfortable you're going to be, and the less anxiety you can have about, did I forget something, or getting there and realizing you forgot something. But, again, what I said at the beginning, I have certainly forgotten things for a triathlon, and you just roll with it. There are certain things that are kind of non-negotiable, like the helmet. But, I've gone and, I remember one race where I forgot goggles. Well, you know what? I just swam without goggles. It wasn't great. And luckily, it was a pretty short race, but you just roll with it. And that's part of what makes this fun, and part of gives you good stories to tell. Let's see. Piggybacking off of the gear, and I know in a couple of the transitions, we've talked a little bit about nutrition. So just kind of some tips about the day before, the morning of, and during the race. Day before, nothing new. I know we've all heard the carb up the night before and things like that. And that's fine if that's what you usually do. But the biggest mistake we see athletes do is all of a sudden the night before race, they eat something that they have never eaten before they've gone out for the night before a training day. So usually stick with what works for you. And these are always the places that, for your next race, you can make changes. But what you don't want to do is all of a sudden the night before the Chicago Triathlon, you're doing your first Chicago Triathlon, you decide to make a total 180 of what you're eating for dinner. And something totally different than what you ate before the Friday night before every Saturday morning swim at Ohio Street Beach. You just never know how it's going to affect you. And frankly, whatever you eat the night before, there are good things to eat. But, you know, much like what I'm going to talk about, the 48 hours of hydration, the nutrition is built up over time. So stick with what you know. And that's kind of the 48 hours of hydration. At least, I mean, I like to think the whole week before the event, really focusing on making sure you are staying well hydrated. Especially given, Chicago Triathlon being in August in Chicago, you have no idea what the temperature is going to be like. So in addition to being a kind of epic race in general, because it's a triathlon where you're swimming, biking, and running, you also may have the possibility that you're going to throw in some heat into this. And though you definitely want to hydrate the night before, it's really going to be based on this build up all week long. So make sure at work you have that water bottle. You're drinking water all day throughout the whole day. Making sure you're getting electrolytes, which are important, are important all the time, but especially in the heat, which really help you not get dehydrated. So electrolytes that would be in, for example, the Gatorade that will be on the course would have electrolytes. There's lots of different ways to get electrolytes in like tablet form, sports drinks, things like that. But really thinking about the whole week before the race, focusing on your hydration. The morning of the race, again, hopefully, and if it's not, you still have a month to get into this habit of having something before the race, some kind of breakfast. And again, you don't want it to be something totally different. One of our coaches, who now unfortunately, sadly, lucky for him, lives in Seattle. He used to talk about how, he ate Fruit Loops every morning, and so before every race, that's what he had. Now, he would acknowledge that that's probably not the best thing to have, but it's what he had every day before he went out on his bike. It's every day before he went out on his run. So that's what he had the morning of. So again, not changing up your breakfast and making sure, again, you have a month to practice. Is there something that works well for you to eat before you go out and really exert yourself for a couple of hours? And again, I just keep harping on this because, again, we don't know what the weather is going to be like. And even if it is a beautiful day, fluid intake. This is an endurance sport. It is not a sprint. So the more you need fluids, and you really need them so that when you get on the run, you're not already dehydrated. So morning of, so when you're standing there waiting for the swim start, make sure you have some kind of water bottle. And that's what you want to take out of transition with you and have with you as you're sitting and waiting to go. Because again, that time frame is going to be some time. So you want to make sure you can continue to hydrate up until the moment you get in the water. And you do sweat in the water, and you sweat a lot in the water, especially, if it's hot or you're wearing a wetsuit. So you're going to lose fluids in the water. So it's important to be hydrated before that. And this is kind of the theme, triathlons often can seem like this very confusing sport, but I think the theme is stick to what you've been doing for the last 3 months. Race what you've trained, do the nutrition that you trained with. I think we have this gentleman here with a chicken sandwich. I guess if that's what you trained with, go for it, but sticking to what you trained with, and not really trying anything totally new. Now I will say, I've certainly had races where I like the Gatorade and I may not have trained with the Gatorade on the course, but my body was telling me that I needed some salt, I needed some electrolytes, and okay, I'm nearing the end of the race, I'm gonna take that Gatorade. But overall, stick with what you know. You've been out there training, you know what works for your body. All right, the swim. Just going back over the swim, as we've talked about, the Chicago Triathlon is in the water, and it's a mass start in the sense that there's a lot of people at the same time going. It is not a mass start in the sense that it is everybody that's in the triathlon going at once. So you will be starting with others, but I think there was actually a question about that. Is it really that is it a mass start in the sense that everybody in the triathlon goes at once? No, it is split up by divisions, which are by age, by first timers, by mountain bike division, by charities, split up in all different ways. And those different waves will go with with the people within the wave at one time. So that's why it's called a mass start. So yes, you are going to get in the water and you are going to do this. And some of the things that are going to make you feel more comfortable in the water is choosing your spots, thinking about ahead of time, where do you want to position yourself? Do you want to be in the back and in the middle so you can let other people go ahead of you and kind of have and try and not feel like you have people swimming up on you? Do you want to be right in the middle, right in the front, ready to go, so you have the clear path ahead of you? Do you want to be on one of the sides? Whatever it is, wherever you want to be, thinking about that ahead of time, so when you get in the water, you can position yourself in that place. Swim your race. So the swim, I think, is the one where we all are coming to the swim with different experience levels, with different just experiences in the water, of really just focusing on swimming your race and not worrying about everybody around you. And even though it's a mass start, you'll start to see the waves cross over. So there's going to be people that are swimming near you who may be in the wave behind you or in front of you. So really just focusing on swimming your race and not getting too caught up in I got to stick with this pack of people. The other thing about the swim is, though it's the most anxiety provoking for most, it's also the shortest part. So you don't want to use all of your gas during the swim. So getting in the water, hitting your stride, whatever's comfortable for you, and whatever is still going to give you a lot of energy when you get out of the water. And we've talked about no style points. There's nobody there. This isn't synchronized swimming. There's nobody there, judging your stroke or which stroke you're doing or, anything like that. So trying to go with what you feel most comfortable with. Over the years and the 2,500 athletes that we've coached in doing this, doing your first triathlon is amazing. Doing your first triathlon, if you're somebody who is newer to the water, is just unbelievable. And so really just focusing on that. You are doing something that is crazy and awesome, and not being, and so doing what's comfortable with you. If that means alternating, between freestyle and breaststroke, because you need a little break, that's great. So, the goal of the swim is get to the end, get out of the water. You're going to get a huge adrenaline rush once you get out of the water because the swim is over. And a lot of the times we hear people actually like, oh, like that's over. That was so fun. Once you get in it and kind of relax. The other thing, as you can kind of see from the pictures, you're in Monroe Harbor. It's kind of cool. You have the skyline on the left side of you or the right side, depending on which way you're going. So really just taking in the moment of how cool and unique experience this is, and taking a break. Again, goal is to get to the end. Yes, it's to get there as quickly as is comfortable for you. But a lot of times, that means we might need to flip on our back. We might need to go into our recovery stroke, like the breaststroke or whatever it is, for a moment to catch our breath. And that's also something, a lot of, myself included, when I start, even though I've done many, many triathlons and have learned to really love swimming, it takes me a little while to get my head in the water in a comfortable way. I still, despite everything I tell myself, I still get a little racing heart beat. And so I just give myself the grace to, like, to take my time until I feel comfortable getting my head in the water and taking off. So, all right. I thought we would watch this just one more time, just in case. All right. So if you haven't seen that before, it's a little just video of the start of the triathlon. We don't need to watch again. All right. It's kind of to tie it all up. And just trying to stay calm, trying to keep things in perspective, trying to, focus on the visualization. Wow, that's a much harder word for me to say than I thought. That, of seeing yourself out on the course, seeing yourself on the bike, seeing yourself on the run. Your mind is, like any stressful situation, is going to start to come up with some crazy things. So knowing what works for you as far as taking some deep breaths, trying to focus, the morning of, there's going to be a lot of other first timers with you, focusing on each other, focusing on the shared experience, trying to not get too much in your head. It's going to make it a much more enjoyable experience. You've done the work. I mean, if you're here at clinic number 5, you've stuck through, a couple months now, you've done the work. And so now it's just race day is day you just go out and put it into play. And being competitive with yourself, triathlons is an individual sport. I think it's so much more fun to have a team, to have that camaraderie and to support each other, like the first timers program. What you'll see Sunday morning is, though we don't know each other, and unfortunately this year we haven't even been able to meet each other in person in these clinics. You're gonna feel like you are a team and you do know each other. And we've had many people that have made friends on the morning of, and or next year when you're down at Ohio Street Beach, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I was swimming next to you, or we were racked together at the triathlon, in the first timers program. So it's fun to have a team, but really at the end of the day, this is about you and your goals and thinking about what it is, that your goal is. And maybe it is a time, but maybe it's just to, push yourself to as far as you can go. Maybe it's to, do this thing and come out having, a smile on your face at the end, figuring out what it is that, maybe it's just getting to the finish line, which is, I think the most epic goal here. Thinking about what it is that you want to get out of this. And I've said this from the beginning and I stand by it, and have fun. I mean, yes, triathlons, and I think it has a reputation of being super competitive. And you can be competitive and have fun. And that's what I would say is just have fun out there. Smile, take it in. I mean, it's the coolest triathlon there is, right in downtown Chicago on Lakeshore Drive. And then celebrate. Make sure you really recognize after you cross that finish line what you did, and not that it was just one day. It's that you've been here since you signed up. Some of you 2 years ago to do this, and that you have put in the work. You've conquered the fears, and that is something to celebrate. And I guarantee you that when you're out there and you won't even know it, there's going to be somebody on the sideline. there's going to be somebody that was walking downtown and saw this thing happening and walked over to see what it was and saw these amazing people doing this really crazy thing. And you're going to inspire them to sign up next year, because that's the story I've been told by multiple athletes. I was just downtown and saw this thing and saw these people and was like, oh, maybe I could do that. So you're going to be inspiring people along the way, and you're not even going to know it. So yeah, just celebrate all of the work you've put in. So that's it. That's our kind of tie up of the last 2-3 months of the clinics. I don't know. Let's see if there are any questions. There are some questions. Uh-oh. I hope the audio is working. But okay. Well, I don't know what, okay. So anyways, well, I'm hoping that this audio is working, but oh, okay. The audio for the swim, yes. You know what? I will, I'll post that on the Facebook page. I must not have shared the audio, so I'm sorry about that. But I'll share it on the Facebook page. You can watch it with the audio. Basically, it's, the announcer, get everybody pumped up, but yeah, I'll share that. But are there any other questions? Looks like we have a question about, you talk more about the start times and when we will get those. And I believe, Jeremy, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you happen to know when wave times will be distributed?
I've been told within 1 to 2 weeks prior to the race. That's when everything should be finalized. But as specific times, especially for first timers, I don't have a specific start date yet or start time yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just an experience in the past, probably, certainly the week before when the clinics start to open, you'll have those time, or not the clinics, the race day course talks. They will talk about those times. So as Jeremy said, yeah, usually a couple weeks, a week, or oops, sorry about that. This is why let me see if I can. All right. Okay. Well, now I'm just making a mess of everything. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right. I think we're good now. Sorry about that. You'd think after 3 months I would have figured Zoom out, but yeah, so they will come out, and within that, so there'll be a list of different waves between, the international, like I said, international starts at 6 a.m. And then the sprint starts at 8:15. So, we don't have an exact time, but somewhere between 6 and 8:15 a.m. the international will go, and somewhere between 8:15 and 10:15 the sprint swimmers will go and start. So hopefully at the next clinic we might have some more information on that. Yeah, no, okay, so let's see. What happens when you cross the finish line? Great question. So you cross the finish line, and there's so it's going to be in Grant Park, and you cross the finish line, and there's an athlete's celebration area, so you can spend some time there. Now transition is not going to be. There's some distance between where you cross the finish line and where transition is. There is a trolley though that will take you from the finish line to the transition area, or you can walk, depending on how you're feeling. So, so once you cross the finish line, you can go get your stuff and leave. You can stay and hang out in the athlete area and pick your stuff up later. You know, transition does stay closed until all of the bikes are back, because they can't have people running in, you know, in transition while people are still biking out and such. So that time when transition opens again will also be listed as we get closer to race day, so you'll know. So people that are really the early international starters who finish really early do often have to wait a little while. But good thing is there's a whole athlete finish line area that's a lot of fun, and that's what we talked about, the celebration. Your family, you know, can be down there. So that is that. Yes, the question is, can you drop your bike off the day before? Yes, I just read that of the times. So Saturday, bikes can be dropped off in transition from 2 to 7 p.m. So great thing, and you know, again, all this will come out as we get closer to race day. The only caveat that I say to any of this is that with COVID protocols and that some of this may change slightly. But if you want to drop your bike off on Saturday, a lot of people will bring it to the expo where there's a bike check area. You go to the course talk. After you're done at the course talk, you can walk your bike over to transition and leave it there. As we talked about, I believe in transition and the bike clinic, you can only leave your bike. Can't leave bags, can't leave your helmet, you can't lock your bike. So you just leave your bike there. There's security overnight. But yes, you can leave your bike the day before. And all of the previous clinics are online. I am typing my email address into the chat. If you don't have Facebook and aren't a part of the Facebook group, you can email me. I will send you those videos. Yeah, okay. And talking about after the finish line, yes, you know, there's the athlete, there's a big, what do they call it? Like celebration area, where, you know, there's tents for different clubs and things like that. And that area is where you can meet back up with your family. So when more information gets sent out about the timing and race day, they will talk about the kind of finish line celebration, and they will have a map. But it's right after the finish line, and that's where your family can meet you. And you can, you know, pick a spot there to meet and to catch back up. The good thing is, you know, that's also where there is viewing to watch you cross the finish line too, which is cool. Yeah, reviewing details about when you get on and off your bike? Yes, that's a great question. And one of the things the questions that we used to have on this presentation was, will I get lost? And the good thing is absolutely not. There are so many markers, there are so many volunteers out on this course that you will never not know where you're going. They will say bike out, bike in, run out, things like that. But specifically your bike, you will see a big arch that's going to say bike out. That's where you're going to go with your bike. When you get there, there's going to be a big line with cones that will say, and that's what's called the mount line. You need to cross over that line, and there will be a lot of other people doing the same thing, and there will be volunteers telling you you have to cross over the mount line before you get on your bike. The opposite, when you come back, when you are following all of the people pointing you in the right direction, you'll see a thing that says bike in, and you'll also see a line with cones. That's the dismount line. You have to get off your bike before you get to the dismount line. So you don't want to do the, you know, like when we were 12 years old on bikes and slide them out by slamming on the brakes. So as you start to approach the dismount line, slowing down and getting off your bike before you hit that line. So I promise you, you will not have any questions. Knowing that that's something that you have to do, you're going to know, you know, what to look for, and it will be very well marked. How strict are they about enforcing headphones on the run portion? The rule is no headphones. So I would say that I could not answer that question, but I will say, yeah, that the rule is no headphones. So I believe you get penalized if you are wearing headphones. How strictly they enforce that, unfortunately I do not know. Yeah. So one question was, what are some common mistakes first timers have made that have got them disqualified? Yeah, and I know there are rules for sure. I think a good rule of thumb is if you are safe and if you are courteous, and recognize that you're racing with a lot of other people, you're not going to do anything that's crazy. A couple of things: helmets. You will not be able to race if you do not have a helmet. So that's a big thing. To making sure you have a helmet. Some of the other littering, that's another big one, the environment. Whatever you take on the bike with you, or the run, or the swim, I guess for that matter, needs to come out with you. So there's no, chucking waters, things like that. So there will be, like on the run, there will be marked places to put the water, in marked areas. You just don't want to be running down into like a, empty, nicely green, clean space and toss a water bottle. So just think about whatever you take with you comes off with you, especially the bike. No tossing water bottles or food wrappers or anything like that. The other thing I think we talked about is drafting. I think that goes to the safety piece of just giving each other space. If you watch the Olympics, this is not the Olympics. This is not a ITU race. There's no drafting. I think we all are comfortable with socially distancing now. And so thinking about, you want to keep distance. And it's much like driving a car. Think about the person in front of you. If they slam on their brakes, are you going to hit them, or are you going to have enough space to maneuver around them? But outside of those things, there is a whole rule section if you go to the chicagotriathlon.com, and they list out every single rule that there is. So you can read, and actually it's very easy to digest. There's swim, bike, run, and you can read through that, and it will lay out the specific rules. Think we might have. All right. Well, there are any other questions last? So again, last clinic, and to that last question, we're bringing some first timers where this is much fresher in their minds of doing their first triathlon. We had some people with some really great experiences and stories and funny stories and things like that. So I'm excited for that on August 18th. And we'll also be able to hopefully answer some more last minute questions about, timing and things like that. So this will be up on the Facebook page, as well as I will repost this video and the date and time for our Ohio Street meetup. But if I don't see you there, I will see everybody on the 18th.
Yeah, one thing, everyone, one thing to address. So for the expo, if you guys are looking to avoid the athlete briefing, we will be having an athlete briefing at the last open water swim clinic, which I believe is the Tuesday before the race. So I think that's the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. So after the open water swim, we'll be doing an athlete briefing there that will allow you to skip the athlete briefing at the expo if you do not want to go to that one. So just another option for you guys in case you're looking for that.
That's great. Yes, that's great to know. Okay.
And I'm sorry, is the expo on Saturday?
The expo will be Friday and Saturday
Friday.
at the Hilton, which is the host hotel.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I am out of town, so I will be just a few days prior to the race. So those will be the days for me to attend.
Perfect.
Awesome. Great. We'll see everybody in a couple weeks.